All right, y'all. This is Henos the Sport, bringing you that heat and that fire. We keeping the foot on the what? On the next. We keeping the foot on the what? On the next. All right, man. We're gonna give you guys a great show. You know, my internet was down. It was acting up. Now it's back up. We good to go. So let's get on to the show so we can give people a quality, showcase on what's going on. Anthony L, the brother man, reached out to me. Anthony L had a lot to talk about. Anthony L wanted to grace us, with some special topics, and we're gonna get on to that. Anthony L, what's up, brother? How you doing today?
What's good? He knows. If there's any noise in the background, excuse it, because I'm around a lot of like trucks that's passing by. Because I'm
Hmm.
just getting off work,
Okay.
so excuse all the background noise. I'm gonna try to keep it as low as I can. Um, and I don't always show my face because my haircut ain't always popping the way it want,
Hmm.
the way I the way I need it to be. So that's why I don't always show my face. But today my hairline is a little better, so I don't mind showing my face right now.
Okay. Good. Good. Good.
But I appreciate you for inviting me to your platform. We have a lot of things to discuss, a lot of important things to discuss um, that needs to be discussed because it's a lot going on right now. There's a few people that's covering these topics, but we got to get it out there. We gotta keep it real about these issues because if these are things that's going to get mixed and intertwined within the sports community, then we can't sit up here and pretend that we're going to ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist because that's what's being entwined in our sports world now. Whether it entails politics or social issues or whatever. These are
Hmm.
the things that are being mixed into sports, whether we like it or not. So since it's mixed into sports, why not discuss it? So that's pretty much why I reached out to you, and I appreciate you again for opening up your channel to get this discussion going.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Richie Rich, talk to them, man. Get your salutations out the way, brother.
Yeah, shouts out to all you guys, Anthony L, Jacob Lone Wolf, and you all in the chat. Hopefully, you all had a great weekend and you all, have a good start to the week. I don't normally come here on Mondays, but, Anthony L came with, he knows hit me up and he talked about Anthony L had some important things to discuss. So, I came on today because I'm intrigued to see what topics we're going to be discussing today. So, you guys tune in. Today should be a really good show. And we should have some. We should be going deep into some very important topics. So I'm looking forward to the show.
Okay, perfect. Jacob Lone Wolf, man, what's going on? How you doing today, man? Let's get your salutations out the way, brother. Jacob Lone Wolf, you there? Jacob Lone Wolf, you there?
Hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
No, we can't hear you. You're coming in like
Hello?
broken and distorted.
I don't know, like, it should be working when I put my headphones on. I don't know the issue.
Yeah, I mean, we can hear
Let
you,
me,
but it's like broken. It's distorted.
okay, let me just get
So
my
why
phone.
don't you get out and then just come back in, and then while we get to that, then
Yeah.
we're gonna pass the mic to Anthony L. So just get out and then get back in, Jacob Lone Wolf, and then we'll pass the mic to Anthony L. Anthony L, let's go ahead and get started on your topic, brother, on what you wanted to talk about, man.
All right, can everybody hear me?
We hear you loud and clear, brother.
All right, so Dang, where do I start? Where do I begin? Because I was very um I wasn't surprised, but I was still disgusted at the level of disrespect that was levied towards Breonna Taylor's family after
Mm-hmm.
what Charles Barkley said. It really struck a nerve with me when he made that comment that he made when he said that when he got up on, I believe it was the halftime show. I'm not sure if I can recall if it was the halftime show or if it was the post game show. But when I seen Charles Barkley trending, and I'm like, okay, I know he said something stupid, so you know what? Let me just. I'm not even gonna fall for this clickbait type stuff, because I already knows probably something ridiculous as usual when it comes to Charles Barkley. But when I finally got a chance to go back and review what he said, I was sick to my stomach because he sat up there and said, "Oh," and I'm paraphrasing, but um, what he said was that, "Oh, uh, Breonna Taylor, I feel sorry and I feel bad that she died, but her boyfriend, shouldn't have shot at those cops." And I'm thinking, like, first of all of the facts wasn't even this case hasn't even been brought to trial, and yet you're speaking on things that you really have no knowledge of. You understand what I'm saying? And this
Facts.
is a report. The report that was released, I actually emailed it to he knows. The ballistics report already came out and
Yeah.
contradicted um, everything that they were saying about how the boyfriend actually shot at the cops. The ballistics report contradicted that, and the attorney general Daniel Cameron, he had that evidence within his possession, but it was not released until after they had already came with the decision as to whether or not that they was going to charge these cops. But for him to sit up there and make a ignorant blanketed statement like that, it just shows
Mm-hmm.
where his mindset is, and how far distant he is when it comes to the black community, the struggles of the black community, and the things that goes on within the black community that's affecting us and still affecting us right now. And and he has a history of siding with and this is and before I go any further, this is not one of those sessions, this is not one of those discussions where we're bashing all law enforcement. This is a situation to where that's being discussed on a national scale about policing within our communities, about police brutality, and how that when police officers, when they are in the wrong, that they need to be held accountable, and they need to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. So this is not one of those things to where uh uh I want to I'm trying to bash all police officers, because that's not the case. But when you sit up there on a national platform, and when you make a statement like an irresponsible statement that's not being backed up with any type of substantiated evidence or facts or anything of that nature, it's irresponsible and it's dangerous. Because then it just turns the whole discussion into something, and it leads into something that is going to gaslight the situation even further when it's really unnecessary. You understand what I'm saying? So I was very upset at Charles Barkley, and he has a history of out of all the discussions that we've had, going all the way back to Trayvon Martin, going all the way back to Mike Brown, going all the way back to Eric Garner and Philando Castile, you name it. Out of all of the police killings that we've had for the past I'll just go the past decade because it's happening. It's been happening for years, but I'll just go the past decade of either police involved shootings or shootings where black men or black women were involved in a murder that was at the hands of a white supremacist. And so every time we've had discussions like these, I've noticed that Charles Barkley has always had the same one-sided opinion. It doesn't matter how much evidence is out there. It doesn't matter if it's on video. And for some strange reason, Charles Barkley aside with the cops when it's clearly it's them that are in the wrong. So it's like that lets me know, this whole Stockholm syndrome is real out here, you know, and that really struck a nerve with me when he made those comments, and it's so much I want to call Charles Barkley right now. I got so many different names I want to call him, but some of it is not which appropriate for me to say during this broadcast. But this guy is he's a foot shuffler. He's a foot shuffler, you know. And Stephen A is no different, Shaq, I've always given him the side eye because he was the one who co-signed on that nonsense that Charles Barkley was spewing. You got to keep in mind, Shaq is a reserve police officer in like three different cities, I believe. I believe he's he's um a police officer in, what was it, Florida, California, and I forgot what the other state was, but Arizona, that's the other state. And so this guy, he's always, and I'm not, this ain't no diss to law enforcement or anything like that, but this guy, obviously he has a bias towards police officers, and you can see it every single time they've had these type of discussions. And it's just really sad to see tragedies happen like this over and over and over again. And then we have black men or people you know who have these platforms, and we're looking to them to not necessarily be a representative of the black community, you know or a representation of our voices and how we feel, but we at least expect them to get up there and say the responsible thing, and um and just do the right thing, and stand by your people for once, and that was just really disappointing for me to see that. And I feel like more people should be challenging them and should be checking them on that, because what you're doing is a total disservice to everything that we're standing up for and everything that we're fighting to overcome in this country right now. And like I said, that was very upsetting. And it wasn't surprising because, like I said, Charles Barkley, this is the type of rhetoric that Charles Barkley spews. A lot of those producers, that's why a lot of those producers down at TNT, that's why they prop him up, because all he's doing is regurgitating that same rhetoric that they're already thinking, that they're already spewing behind the scenes. So basically, they're just using him as another prop. It's the same way with Stephen A. Smith, because I seen his tweet and he was one of the ones who co-signed on it. So, those are the guys that they put in place as props, as Trojan horses, to cheerlead for white supremacy, and those are they'll do anything, to keep their positions, to get raises, and to move up the ladder, even if it means bringing down their own people. I don't like Stephen A. Smith because of his condescending tone. I don't like how he wags his finger towards the black community, and the way he talks down to us. That's why I haven't watched programs like ESPN anymore and First Take anymore. And now I'm just gonna have to stop watching TNT now, because until our black men stand up and be men and stand by our sisters and stand by our brothers when we're being brutalized, and that's another thing too. Charles Barkley, he went after Kenny Smith for him walking off the set. I'm like, this dude is taking a stance that's beyond basketball, that's beyond sports, that's beyond his job as an analyst. You can't tell another grown man that's around your age what he can and what he can't stand up for. And I had a huge problem with that. So it's just, I just feel like, if this is gonna be the thing to where we're gonna bring
You're muted. He knows.
I'm gonna chime in and say a few words, and then Jacob Lone Wolf, I'm gonna pass the mic to him until Anthony L comes back in. The bottom line is this: we're dealing with a situation where this country this year in 2020 has faced a lot of adversity. It's faced a lot of, issues that are the forefront issues. This is why, even though, basketball has been being played, and even though we got games that we can talk about and things of that nature, it was the most mundane thing. And yes, I love this game. I've been holding serve and sticking to the script. I haven't been watching no games because that was my protest, that I would not watch actual basketball games. I would catch the highlights. And obviously, we have to talk about current events that's going on. That's what platform or content creators do. They talk about it. But I'm not going to sit here and just go game by game, because I feel that there's a form of hypocrisy. If I say that I'm not going to be watching games and then I'm sitting here and covering games, that makes absolutely no sense. But covering the highlights and telling you snippets of what I think an assessment of the game is, that's something completely different than me sitting there and saying, yeah, I'm against the NBA restart, but then at the same time, I'm also participating fully into the NBA restart. That would make me hypocritical, and that's not the case. The bottom line is this: Charles Barkley is known to speak, you know, and Charles Barkley is known for basically speaking too fast and basically being that Uncle Tom or that coon guy that has to always say something, that always has to shide, the black community, always has to come after them. That's just his MO. That's how Charles Barkley has been. That's how he's groomed. And a lot of these mainstream media black individuals, they are like that because they know they're collecting a check. So they have to basically buck dance and say things that have to line up with that check. Kendrick Perkins is like that. I call him Uncle Ruckus. Stephen A. Smith is like that. You have a litany of these guys that are like that. And when it comes to their dialogue and it comes to their conversational piece and it comes to how they react when it comes to things, the bottom line is people have to understand that when we look at the issues that's the forefront issues right now with the Charles Barkley of the world, Breonna Taylor of the world, Charles Barkley put his foot in his mouth. And the right thing would have been for him to come back and retract what he said and to just leave that topic all alone. See, this is the thing that Malcolm X talked about, and it just goes over a lot of people's heads and they don't get it. Malcolm X talked about how entertainers are not civil rights leaders. Let me say it again. Entertainers are not civil rights leaders. People should not be holding back, what I'm saying, and hoping that entertainers, i.e. LeBron James, i.e. all these guys, I don't put no accountability on any of these guys. I don't hold these guys to any standard. I'm not that person that's going to say LeBron James needs to be that guy that's going to say something. I'm not that person that's going to say that, all of these other folks are going to say something. That's just not the way I roll. To me, they are athletes. I don't expect much from athletes because what I expect from them is to be athletes. I know that may sound, weird to some folks, and some folks are expecting more. But if you're expecting more from athletes, then maybe you weren't raised with the right sense of understanding that you don't need athletes to define who you are as an individual. You need to define yourself as that individual. And if I'm waiting for some athlete to be the one to define who I am, and I'm waiting for some athlete to define how I govern myself as a black individual, then I have missed a boat, or I have either, lost something, or I wasn't taught something via embedded theology at an early age. And it's been a monkey see, monkey do. We have to stop looking at celebrities. We have to stop looking at the entertainment industry, because that's what they are. People don't understand the terminology. At the root word of entertainment, what is it? It's to entertain you. That's what the word entertainment is. When you take out ment, MENT, entertain, not be a civil rights leader, not be standing up for social justice, not be pushing. That's why Malcolm X said it. And when he said it way back, he got flack for it. Entertainers are not civil rights leaders. You have to expect those that are actually civil rights and social justice leaders to be that, because one of the prerequisites and one of the requirements of being someone that operates in social awareness, someone that operates in the civil rights realm, is you have to be willing to be a martyr. You have to be willing to die for the cause. And if that is not part of your title to be a martyr, then Houston, we have a problem. And that's what you're seeing. A lot of these people are not willing to die for the cause. A lot of these people are not willing to sacrifice. Now, if there is some rare instances where you've had athletes where you could say, yeah, they did meet the bar. Muhammad Ali would be one of them, because this man served jail time. So he gets credit. He gets a lot of credit. And he was around that time that Malcolm X was around. And Malcolm X gave him nod of approval because he was willing to tack on issues that these athletes don't know nothing about, and these athletes are not willing to tack on. So my thing is this: if you are an entertainer and you're an athlete and you want to delve into these types of topics and you want to make these types of sacrifices, then you have to make the sacrifice altogether. And I know a lot of people are high on Colin Kaepernick. I'm not high on Colin Kaepernick either. Yes, I said it. Damn right I said it. And I fucking said it again. Because Colin Kaepernick sold out because he took that money from the NFL. If he didn't do that, then his cause would have been 100% solid. The fact that he went back and got a check, that's a cop-out. Don't take my word for it. Do the research. This man went and got a check. So I can't take that serious. Because when you're moving in that instance and you're moving in that vernacular and you're moving in that form, you have to be either all in and invested or not be in it altogether. So when you have people like the Charles Barkleys of the world, people like the Stephen A. Smiths of the world that always want to, put on their, oh, I'm black today, but every other day they're not. You see, something's wrong with that. It's either you're going to be who you're going to be authentically and consistently, or you're just not going to be that individual. The Breonna Taylor situation is a very controversial situation. It's a very touchy situation, and it's a very on the line situation that when you look at its fullness thereof, you have to be somebody that's operating in that realm to have the right to talk about it. And I'm not even talking about Black Lives Matter, the movement, because I don't believe in that bullshit either. Because when you look at the root of it, it wasn't about black people. It was about the LGBTQ community, because the 4 women that started Black Lives Matter were part of the LGBTQ community. And I don't have a problem with LGBTQ community. I'm just stating the facts. When they promoted their agenda, they promoted it for that community. They didn't promote it for the black community. And if you do your research, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But the bottom line is this: the ideal of Black Lives Matter, that's what I support. But when I look at somebody like Charles Barkley, I cannot sit here and take Charles Barkley serious. This was the guy that sat here on a Right Guard commercial and told you, I am not a role model. Did you guys forget that? This was the guy that opened his mouth and told you guys that he is not a role model. So why would I take anything that this guy has to say seriously? He's not a role model. Now, all of a sudden, so many years later, he can wear the hat of being a role model. Things that make you say, The bottom line is this: when we look at Charles Barkley and we look at his language, what we see is a walking hypocrite when it comes to these types of conversations, when it comes to these types of topics. He shouldn't be talking about Breonna Taylor. He shouldn't be talking about, any other situation that has happened in this calendar year that has affected the black community. He has no rights to talk about it. Because when he does talk about it, he's going to give you a waffling response. And anybody that's willing to give you that level of response, you can't take them serious. I'm sorry to say that. You cannot take them serious. It's either you all in or you're not. This is the way that I look at these types of topics. It's either you're all in or you're not. And last time I checked, the revolution was not televised. It was broadcast. See, that's the other part that they don't tell you. See, everybody always say the revolution was not televised, but they don't tell you the other half of it. It was broadcast. These motherfuckers are televising the revolution, so they're not even following the full iteration or the full inaction of what the revolution is about. So that tells you right there in of itself that that's an artificial way of governing themselves. These guys have to understand that they are athletes. And a lot of times when people of a different color come out and tell them shut up and dribble, people always just point to the gun and say, man, you know, that was a racist comment. They shouldn't have said that. Why these athletes need to shut up and dribble? But really, when you get to the root of it, every time somebody from an opposite color says something, that's not a racial thing. Sometimes there's truth telling behind that. And with these athletes, what you guys are realizing is the shut up and dribble is true. Because when these guys open their mouths and they talk about social justice and they talk about being socially aware, they sound stupid. You lose brain cells listening to these guys. These guys are not the black authority on YouTube. Now that's a respectful brother right there. That's somebody you want to listen to. That's somebody that's black conscious, black woke. That's somebody that understands his blackenism. That's somebody I would fucking listen to. Somebody I would prescribe to, not these motherfuckers. See, if you guys need people that I can give you guys reference to, I'm an open book. Jacob Lone Wolf knows this. Anything you guys need to ask me, I can send you guys emails. I can send you references. I can tell you what's real because I know what's real. Because I have the discernment to know what's real and I know what feels real. And I can tell you what's real and what y'all need to listen to that is real. And the Black Authority, shout outs to him. That's a real motherfucker right there. That's who you guys need to listen to. Not no damn Charles Barkley. Because Charles Barkley is just nothing but a walking hypocrite. Not no damn Stephen A. Smith. That's a walking hypocrite. There's a remnant of real people out here in these streets called life that are actually doing things that can empower you as a black individual. Don't listen to everything, man. You know, Charles Barkley is like Brian Kenny. He's a man of many things, and then he's a man of nothing at the same time. That's how I look at him. A man of many things, and then a man of nothing at the same time. Clever people are so clever that they're stupid a lot of times. That's Charles Barkley. That's Stephen A. Smith. That's what these types of people are. They're so clever to the point that they're stupid because they're giving you a similitude of what it should look like, but they lack the fullness thereof. And when I say that, I'm speaking from a good book standpoint. I'm speaking from it from a biblical standpoint. And people got to understand that. People give you this similitude as if they are telling you the truth, but it's really half truths, which is an i.e. lies. I can look the part, but the question is when I peel the layers of the onion, when I sit here and I go through a substantive, if I go through a sustenance, if I go through a substance base to where I analyze the person, I do some critical thinking, because that's what's lacking in our black community. Critical thinking, the ability to reason effectively, having a sound mind, the ability to question things. We don't do that enough. We just go with whatever sounds good because the person is speaking a popular jargon. You know, we get so caught up in cliches. We get so caught up in the foolery. We get so caught up in the nonsense that we don't see these real issues for what they are. And at the same note, Chris Renshaw said some things too that made sense. Not all black cops or not all cops are the problems that's going on with the situation that's going on. We can't put this on every cop. There's some good cops out there. Yes, we have to say that. There are some good cops out there. There's cops in your family. Are you going to sit there and say that they're bad too? No. There's some good cops out there. There's a lot of them that's corrupt. A lot of them that's trained on that bullshit training that It's basically to, okay, you're black, we're just going to judge you off of that. We know that's true, and we're not going to hide from that. But there are some good people in uniform, and we need to acknowledge that. And we can't just always point the finger and point the blame on each and every single one of them. But in this instance, in the Breonna Taylor instance, that's a unique situation because the way that she died shouldn't have happened the way that it did. So I leave with this on my end, then I'm going to give it right back to Anthony L. We need to open our minds, we need to open our hearts, and we need to analyze things for what they are on a deeper conscious level. This is what I want to see from us as Black community individuals, not just going by things that's on the surface. And that's what Charles Barkley did. This is what he continues to do. And this is what Anthony L is talking about. And this is what he's speaking to. So when Anthony L sent me that, the news article reference, and I read through it a few times, I was just disgusted on how he got so much information inaccurate and how he was so quick to be, oh yeah, you're that token Negro that we have on inside the NBA. So we want you to talk about the topics at hand. We want you to discuss what's going on because you're that token Negro. That's what happens. And people have to understand this is the reality of it. These guys have to be muzzled to a certain degree. If they started out that they were being more bold and they were being more authentic and they were being more cold-hearted, unadulterated, and cutthroat, truth-telling fashion with their truths, they had to get muzzled at some point because they work for an actual big organization that says that there's only a certain towing of the line that you can go. And if you cross that, we're going to have to get rid of you. This is why Rob Parker found himself out of ESPN, because of the way that he chided Robert Griffin III. If you guys remember that, he got on his ass and they gave him the pink slip because they don't want you to be unapologetic. They don't want you to be unencumbered. They don't want you to be a he knows the sport. They don't want that because they can't control that. That throws them off. That's a dichotomy that they don't want to deal with. A Black man that has wisdom, a Black man that's uncontrollable, a Black man that knows and have confidence, purpose, and abundance mindset. They can't handle that, man, because they can't control it. Unapologetic, they can't control that. So you know what they do? They muzzle it. And that's what they did to Charles Barkley. They muzzled him. So this is why you're seeing the hypocrisy coming out of Charles Barkley's mouth. This is why I was telling you guys, and you guys are seeing in Prediction King fashion, because I'll be dropping these predictions way in advance, probably 6 months out. I told you guys were going to see some things that was going to happen way later on. That was going to be matching up the initial stuff that I was talking about with why this NBA restart shouldn't have started. And case in point, Charles Barkley is another example of that. Look at the NBA. Look at the hit they've taken from a popularity standpoint. Because don't nobody want to watch them for no damn social awareness or social justice. They're watching basketball players because they want you to play fucking basketball. And if we as Black people can't be honest about that, then we're not being authentic with ourselves. So when we hear shut up and dribble, it's not really a bad thing. It's just who said it and where it came from that gave it noise. But I'm also saying shut up and fucking dribble. Because these guys, when they open their mouths of anything outside of basketball, I lose brain cells. I didn't know when these athletes were all of a sudden civil rights leaders that I needed to prescribe to them and I needed to learn something from a Black perspective. When did that ever happen? And those of us that are challenging these athletes, because we ourselves, and if we're parents, yeah, I think I might throw a little uppercut on somebody. If somebody's a parent, they're listening, and maybe they've been hoping that these athletes would train. If you're waiting on a freaking athlete to be a role model to your child, you failed your child, because that's your job as a parent. That's your job. That's your sole responsibility, not the athletes. It's not their job to tell your child how they should grow up. That is your job. And see, what people need to understand is they need to start taking individual responsibility for their actions. And enough of that is not happening. So I'm not going to sit here and listen to no damn Charles Barkley's opinion, because I already know what Charles Barkley's opinion is. He told me that in the right guard commercial. I'm not a role model. So if you already told me that, Charles Barkley, why the hell do I need to listen to anything that you have to say? Because you've proven it. Let's see. You've gotten a bunch of damn DUIs. You've gotten in a bunch of public brawls. You've been caught and thrown in the jail cell numerous amount of times. You've gotten into public fights. Yeah, your ass ain't no fucking role model. You was right there with Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods doing goodness what with goodness who. Yeah, you ain't no freaking role model. You are absolutely right in that right guard commercial. You are not no freaking role model. And then on top of that, you got a big freaking mouth. That's why Jordan kicked you out of that exclusive club with him and Tiger Woods. Because you tell the T on everything that freaking happens. That's why Shaq on Inside the NBA wanted to slap you in the face. Because you kiss and tell. So not only are you not a role model, you kiss and you freaking tell. So anyone that's sitting here and taking Charles Barkley or any of these types of mainstream black folks serious, all I'm leaving was this. Things that make you say, alley-oops thrown right back to you, Anthony L. What you got to say, bro?
Hey, I'm 1000% with you. I'm 1000% in agreement with you. And there's another thing that I wanted to add. Shout out to Steven Jackson, because Steven Jackson was one of the only few players, or a few former players, to check Charles Barkley on his comments. So shout out to Steven Jackson. Another thing with Steven Jackson that a lot of people don't know, Steven Jackson was a part of LeBron's whole voter drive initiative. But if you go back and watch his videos, because he has his own YouTube channel, he was improperly or unfairly dismissed by LeBron's team, that consists of Rich Paul and Maverick Carter and all those guys that are in his circle. But yeah, he was a part of that whole voter drive. And from what I understand, from what Steven Jackson was saying, was that his voice became muddled. As we all know, Steven Jackson is the type of cat that'll speak his mind. He doesn't mince words. He doesn't bite his tongue. And for that reason, that was one of the main reasons why he was dismissed from the whole voter initiative that they had going on, that LeBron was running. So that's just another thing to keep in mind, to let you know who's really out here talking the talk and walking the walk, and who's just doing it for clout. You know, we know the ones who's doing it for clout, and who's supposedly saying all the right things on Twitter and saying all the right things in the public. But when it comes to really putting that pressure on them and really putting that pressure on the necks, that's what Steven Jackson was out there doing. And I don't know what type of uh, uh, politics or what type of corporate entities that got in the way of what the relationship that Steven Jackson had with that whole voter initiative that LeBron and Rich Paul was running. But I didn't think that was right. He should be the main one speaking out, because this was a guy who knew George Floyd personally, and he's just the right person to speak on the matters that we're facing right now. So the fact that he was dismissed from the whole uh, voter drive that they was doing, and it's really not even so much about voting. Like, that's part of it, but to go along with that, voting it's not about voting for the lesser of two evils. It's about letting them know, let's say, hey, this is the issues that we're dealing with right now. What are you going to do about it? Because we're not giving away our votes for free. We're going to leverage our vote. And if you're not coming at us correct, if you're not coming at us with the proper agenda that's going to directly address our issues that we're dealing with in our communities, then screw y'all. You know, this is the type of attitude that Steven Jackson had, and I'm with him on that, because it's time out for playing footsie and pity pat with these politicians. Either they're gonna directly address our needs, you know, or it's no go. It's no go. I mean, you can't you're not gonna put on no concert with the Migos and all of these rap concerts and have all these rappers come out and have a little block party and say, oh, we got these rappers here, so we want you to come out and vote. No, we want you to directly address our issues on the table. We want tangibles. And if you're not going to come correct, then don't come at all, you know? And this is the type of approach that Steven Jackson had. I don't know if it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but it is what it is. It goes back to what I was telling you, he knows, is that, when you start speaking truth, people tend to lose their minds, and you're going to start seeing who your real followers are, and who your real supporters are at the end of the day. Because when we continue to have topics like these, there's going to be a small remnant of people that's gonna leave you, but then you have to wonder, okay, are they are they actually doing me a favor by not supporting my channel at all? Because if you're gonna leave me, because if you're gonna leave this channel and not support this channel anymore because you don't like black men coming together and speaking on issues that's already been being talked about in sports, then that lets us know where you stand, and that lets us know that maybe you are just in it for the entertainment, you know. And yes, it's true. Yes, there are some people that needs to shut up and dribble, whether you're white or black. You're not fully well versed on the issues, and if you don't have the proper intel, and if you're not thorough with what you're saying, then maybe you should take a seat. Maybe you should sit down. But just be prepared. That's all I'm saying, because there are going to be a remnant of people that's going to leave, but in the same token, the same amount of people that leave you, you are going to gain double for it, because people's going to be listening and tuning in and be like, you know what? I don't really follow sports like that, but he keeps it real, you know. And I haven't been knowing you for that long, he knows, but I've seen people come and go from your channel, you know. Really watch your boxing side of the channel, but I could tell there's been some people that have come and gone even in your boxing channel when it comes to speaking that truth about Errol Spence, right? You know, so that's just the way the ball rolls and bounces. You're gonna have people come and go. You know, I mean, it's easy for people to follow you when you're giving them something, that they could chew on. You giving them 5 loaves of bread and 2 pieces of fish to munch on. Well, of course they're gonna follow you. You're gonna have large numbers if you're constantly giving them fish and you're constantly giving them bread. But when it comes to really following you and really being about that life and really being riders, you're gonna see all the people walking away like, wait a minute, I thought we was getting, bread and fish over here. I didn't sign up for this, like all the people that walked away from Jesus. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. Thought I was gonna get bread and fish, out of this. I didn't know that I was gonna have to go through all of this persecution and go through all of this struggle and go through all of this trials and tribulations. That's not what I signed up for. I just get me a fish dinner. And you have a lot of people that have the fish dinner mentality to where it's like they're only around you as long as you're giving them something that they want to hear or giving them something that they want. But when it really comes time to be a rider and support you, on the issues that really affect you the most, you're gonna see who your true followers are. You're gonna be able to filter and dissect the real from the fake. Who was with jump and who wasn't with you all along,
Yep.
So all of that stuff is coming into manifestation right now as we speak. Whether you talking about boxing, whether you talking about basketball, whether we talking about social issues or whatever, you're gonna speak that unadulterated, unapologetic truth, whether people want to hear it or not. You know, and so it's a brand new day. People just gonna have to get used to it. You
Mhm.
know, y'all can hit that dislike button. Y'all can complain in the chat all y'all want, but on this channel, on He Knows channel, you're gonna get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead on, pass that mic on,
Richy
because
Rich.
there's some other guys waiting to speak, so I'm gonna give them the floor.
Richy Rich, what you got to say on the topic, man?
Yeah, man. Charles Barkley, man, you guys went in, man. You guys definitely went in on this topic, and it's about time. We talked about we keyed in on Charles Barkley, man, and some of the comments he's been saying. This comment was very insensitive because you could tell him along with Shaq, man, they didn't really do the research to really find out what was going on in that case. They just agreed with choosing the cop side, saying that her boyfriend uh, shot at a cop, or and that's why the cops retaliated, and she was in the way, and they shot her, and they didn't really have none of the facts when
Hmm.
the facts came out, and it was shown that the boyfriend didn't shoot at any cops. He was trying to run away. He was trying to get away from the cops, and they went into that house, and they shot. They were trying to shoot him, and they shot her. So Charles Barkley, man, this guy, man, he's been able to get away with a lot on the air. It's embarrassing because he's a black guy. You know what I'm saying? He's saying these things, and he's bringing us down in front of the many Caucasian people who already have these weird issues with us, and he's
Hmm.
making us look worse in the light, man. By looking like a Uncle Tom, a coon. You know what I'm saying? Not looking out for his people. Stephen A. Smith, he's been guilty at that at times. Uh, I was disappointed in Shaq because just like Anthony L. Mentioned earlier, Shaq, he's heavy in the authority game. He's an officer. He went to training for that. He has a license in 3 states. But you can't always side with your fellow officers, man. I'm pretty sure Shaq has been in some of these precincts, and he's seen the ugly side of what it is to be a cop. So he knows there's dirty cops. There's cops, and there's cops that are purposely going after guys of color. That they make it a purpose to go after black guys. So Shaq knows that nasty side of what it is to be a law enforcement. So I was expecting Shaq to say something to Charles Barkley. We don't know all the facts, not just to just agree with him, because Charles Barkley just utters crazy things out of his mouth. That's the type of guy, man. He just says things randomly, and and he expects uh to always get like someone to laugh. He's like the clown on the show. Someone always trying to get a rouse out of people, or the viewer, or the people who are viewing the show. But this is not the the matter to do something like this. He should have been very uh sensitive on this topic. He should, you know what? I don't have all the facts. I'm not gonna, just go out and say something that I'm gonna end up regretting later. So let me look up all the facts. Let me see what's going on. Let me see how this case pans out, and then I'm gonna, give my opinion on what's going on. But Charles Barkley is always that person in the room that feels he needs to get his opinion out, but yet his opinion is is very outlandish a lot of the time. So I'm glad that he got this backlash, man. And
right now, he's kind of, in our language, it's like we speak Creole. In our language, there's a word we say. He's want right now. That means that he's embarrassed of himself right now, and he doesn't have, and he can't muster up the words to like recount on what he said. He can't muster. He's trying to duck and dodge on every corner. If people that are approaching him, people that are telling him to retrace back on what he said. This man does not want to talk about that because he knows he messed up. And right now, the black he doesn't in front of the black community, he looks really bad right now, and he needs to apologize. That's the only he needs to apologize to Breonna Taylor's family. He needs to apologize to the black community for making comments like that with sincerity. No joking aside, a straight up apology. Like when they had Stephen A. Smith apologize for those comments he made about women or something like that. I don't know. It was some lady. She used to be on the show, and she kind of put Stephen A. Smith on blast. Stephen A. Smith got suspended, and he had to apologize about some comments he made about women. It's the same thing Charles Barkley needs to be. He needs to go on TNT and address this. The next time they have one of these games on, and these games are being covered by TNT. I don't think TNT is going to cover these games anymore because when it's the finals, they're covered by ABC, ESPN. So we're not going to see the TNT crew anymore. But whenever he has an opportunity, man, this guy needs to apologize, and he needs to do it with sincerity, man, because those were very insensitive comments that he made, and he hurt that family, man. He hurt them by saying it because he wasn't there. You can't make those comments if you weren't there. If you don't have all the facts, you gotta always be very careful, man, when you don't have the facts on a matter that happened, man. That goes for anybody. So I'm glad that he's finally getting this backlash off his comments. You know, and I support you, Anthony L, by not watching these networks, man, until these guys grow some balls, man, and they start really supporting black people, man, supporting the community. Stop making us look bad in the light. Uh, Whenever these things come out, these guys, these talking heads, they always make these comments, man, to where you could just tell, like they're trying to they're trying to look good for their bosses. They're trying to look good for most of the viewers that are watching the show, and a lot of Caucasian people view these shows. They're watching these shows, and they don't want those ratings to go down. So these guys make these comments to make sure they don't lose that viewership. This is what their bosses are telling them. You know why that's true? Because Jason Whitlock, he's another one. He kind of went in on what's going on. He kind of gave a side on what these bosses are all about. Because there's a guy, he was with ESPN, he got fired. He's also viewed as a coon. He's made some outlandish comments or towards black people who are sports figures or situations that are happening to black people in everyday life. Uh, but this guy, he's been fired from Fox Sports. Now he's in a partnership on the internet where you could see him. He's doing live video shows through YouTube where he's streaming and stuff like that. And he kind of gave an inside look of what these bosses that run these networks are telling people who are analysts, writers, especially if they are black. Like if they can't, they put handcuffs on them. They literally put handcuffs on them. They can't. These people can't have a mind of their own. They got to be very careful what they say. And if someone says something about them, and they got to try to look out for themselves or try to combat themselves, they can't do it. The people that run those shows, the producers, the directors, they put handcuffs on the writers, the analysts, especially if they're black people. That's what he was talking about during this week. He was letting us know. I was surprised to hear that from him, but he actually went into detail about that. So it's no surprise when you see guys like Stephen A. Smith make comments like that, or Charles Barkley make comments like that. You know, it's because the director and the producer are instigating for these guys to make these comments, man. And these guys don't have no balls, man. They don't have no balls. They're just letting these people treat them in a fashion where they're being the black community is looking at them as a way as they're sellouts, but they don't care, man, because if it was anybody that had like a moral compass, man, they would just leave. They would leave those networks and they would try to do their own thing. You know what I'm saying? Or they would try to figure it out. You know, this is why, you know, I kind of respect Jamel Hill and I respect Michael Smith, because they got tired of what ESPN was doing to them. These people were trying to I don't know if you're familiar with those talking heads. They were on ESPN about a couple years ago. They had their own segment on ESPN Sports, and they were trying to blacken it up a little. ESPN wasn't having it. Those producers wasn't having it. They told they got to chill with those black undertones. They wanted them to chill, and Jamil Hill got tired of it, and she left that show. She was also someone that was going at Donald Trump, always criticizing him, and they didn't like that. Donald Trump told ESPN, "Listen, y'all better check her. Y'all better check her. She can't be saying stuff like that about me." And ESPN will have to go to her, and they'll have to let her know, okay, all right, no, you can't be talking about the president like that. You got to be very aware of how you're talking about the president. You know, she just got tired of it, and she left the network. Michael Smith soon followed after, and you know, now they're doing their own thing. I think Michael Smith is on. He's working for NBC or MSNBC. He has a segment, but there's black people who are talking heads on these shows, man. They need to show, especially at a time like this, man. A time like this has made us more aware now. Like, we just can't put up with this with this injustice anymore. Like, if you feel that you're working for a network where you feel that they're kind of like running the strings on you, man, you gotta have the balls to be able to tell these people no more, man. You're not gonna just do this to me, especially now, because people know what's going on, what's happening to people of color in this country now. It's being more focused. It's the trend. It's the topic at hand. You know, especially it's like that time when those women, you know, they were being I forgot what it was called, the old Harvey Weinstein thing, when this director was basically telling these women that if they wanted certain roles in movies, they would have to do sexual things with him, or you know, he would, or if they didn't do that, he was going to you know, make sure they never worked in Hollywood again. You know, that was the topic of trend, and then you started seeing all these women coming forward and saying this is what these guys were doing to them. Now these guys are being put to the fire. Now, since our situation is a trend at hand, it's the main topic. The people who felt that they were in a situation, man, that you know, that they were stuck in. I'm talking about black people, and they didn't see a way out. This is the time to speak up, man, and try to, you know, use this time at hand to improve your situation.
All right, Jacob Longwood, man. Let's get your salutations out the way, and then you can go ahead and touch up on the topic as well.
Hello, can you guys hear me perfectly? Hello?
There was that last time I heard you clearly, but there's like a feedback in the background. Just keep saying something. Let me see.
Okay, because I have my headphones in. I think it should work right now.
Okay, you're coming in a little
Does it
better
work?
now. Yeah, you're coming in better now.
Oh, okay. I'll try my best. Technology, man. I don't know what they're doing with me, but yeah, I absolutely agree. What you brothers have said. About just about what's going on. I think in my case it's differently because I don't live in the United States. I do have a lot of family members that live there. I have one of my uncles serves in the military, but I absolutely agree with you guys. I think Charles Barkley was wrong on that. Obviously, I'm not surprised. It wasn't the first time that he said something outlandish. And I just think that they get to a point to where you just take things too far. And when you go overboard and you talk about how Breonna Taylor, you talk about how in that situation the reason why she got shot was because her boyfriend was shooting at the cops. I think that he shouldn't have said that on TV. And I think with Charles Barkley, I think with him, he's basically that's his stick. That's his gimmick. That they've given him on TV, and I think it's like in comedy. Like how there's certain comedians that are known for certain things. Like I remember early in the year when unfortunately Kobe died. You remember that comedian Ari Shafir? That guy that made
Mm-hmm.
the comment the day Kobe died.
Mm.
I was doing some research on him, and he's not been known for making outlandish comments after celebrities die, and that's what Charles Barkley is doing. He's known for basically saying what's on his mind, But what he has to realize is that there's a time and a place for everything. Being truthful doesn't always mean that you have to say it at that moment, and that's not being a human being. That's being an animal. You don't just say whatever you want at that moment. That's we're civilized people. And I just think that the reason why I'm speaking on this issue is because I feel like when it comes to like Black Americans, like when it comes to like Black people worldwide, I think you guys are pretty. I think you guys have the most influence out of every Black person in the world. So regardless if Charles Barkley thinks that he's just saying his opinion, he speaks for us. There's a lot of people like us that are underprivileged, and we don't have the voice to speak out. With obviously systematic racism, and I just think that when you give a lot of these athletes power and stuff like that, that like that saying goes, power. I think power corrupts absolutely. And it just goes to show you that even though the NBA is like what, like 80 or 90% black, they're a guest in the house of the NBA. They don't own the NBA. It's the owners, So regardless, if they want to speak out or not, at the end of the day, whoever owns the league, you have to go by their rules. And it goes back to the point when Kyrie brought up that suggestion that they should start up their own league. Even though I know it was a thought, obviously trying to start your own league, that's like, I mean, that would take years and stuff like that. But just that initial point when Kyrie made it goes to show you that he had the right mindset and he was going in the right direction. And once you do that, then once you own your own things, then you can talk however you like. You can pretty much sit on the furniture however you like. And I just think that these athletes, it just boggles my mind, not just athletes, but just these celebrities. They make millions of dollars every year, and like they can't get things done. Like you guys have the resources. Like, what's the point of speaking out? I'm pretty sure he knows. Or Rich. You living in the Miami area. There's a lot of wealthy, black people everywhere in the United States. And it just boggles my mind. Like, why they could walk out on the NBA, and if they came together, they would literally build they can literally build their own league, literally, and then you can invite media to your league, and then you can start talking about these things. But talking about it is not enough. You have to show action. You have to really be out there. And if you're not adverse in a subject, it's best not to talk about it. You have to go through low key. There's been I know there's been a lot of NBA players that give back to the community and stuff like that. And a lot of the times people will say that they operate in silence. But I think that if you're doing something like that, show people that you're doing it. Start showing it, because then more people will start doing the same instead of speaking out. I just think he knows that showing and basically helping out the community, that should be televised more. Than that should be There should be more attention on that than speaking out. I think they should speak less and do more. That's what a lot of re- the great revolutionaries throughout history have done, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. There was some guy in Africa called Patrice Labamba. I highly encourage everybody to research him. He was, I think, the president of the Congo. And this is, I think, there's so much similar things that happen in America that's similar in Africa. And I just think that the fact that it hurts me as well. Even though I'm not from the United States, I think we live in a global economy. And black people, black Americans are the most successful black groups in the world. You guys dominate sports, you dominate media. In terms of like swag and in terms of like what's hip and what's not, it runs through you guys. There's a lot of people here in Melbourne that that play basketball because a lot of these athletes. There's a lot of people that rap. There's a lot of people that follow your culture. And I just want you to know, of living here in Melbourne, that your culture is worldwide. It goes to show you that the power that you guys have. And you know it it just it shows that if you guys have that cultural impact on the world, then you can have it economically. But it has to come. It has to start with us, and we have to come together in order to do that. And we have to talk about Rich brought up a great point about Jason Whitlock. Now, Jason Whitlock, I don't agree with everything he says. Matter of fact, I disagree with most things that he says. I think when it comes to race and politics, he's very insensitive. And he's basically like a Charles Barkley.
Hmm.
There has to be a level of sensitivity towards your people. But with him, obviously, he got kicked off Fox. He basically, now he's able to talk the truth. And I remember the other day he said some really informative stuff. He knows, and Anthony Allen, just about athletes pretty much being a part of that Marxist movement. And if you know anything about Marxism, you will know what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. And Marxism is basically, I don't in my theory, and just basically on my research, is pretty much, it was created by Karl Marx in Germany, right? And a lot of the movements that are happening today stem from that movement. And pretty much that movement, it basically goes against God. And what I mean by that is that I think Karl Marx's ideology or theory was like, they're atheists. They don't believe in God. Now, whatever religion you're in, it doesn't matter, because with me, I would rather believe in a higher power than believe in man. And what Marxism did, it forced us to look at man as gods. And you see this with a lot of celebrity worship. In Hollywood. It's the cult. A lot of these athletes that we look up to, I wouldn't be surprised if they're part of that Freemason or Illuminati cult. Those secret societies. And when we look at these athletes, you have to realize that there's a bigger agenda. They're focusing on themselves and their bottom line, because to truly build up a community, and to truly build something is really hard. It's gonna take a lot of sacrifices. I don't think that most of these athletes are willing to lose those millions of dollars. So if you're not willing to lose anything, just shut the hell up. Like, just shut the hell up and delegate that to the other people who are in that field, who are willing to die. That's why Muhammad Ali is such a global icon, because he was willing to die. He stood on his principles. He stood on his rights. Guys, I remember guys like Bill Russell on the front line and stuff like that. So I don't know why we sit around talking about LeBron James, about how he's helping the cause, when we barely talk about Bill Russell. what he went through during those times when he was playing with the Celtics, and I just think that there needs to be there needs there needs to be more emphasis on uh, black scholars or black scientists. These are the people, black teachers and stuff like that. These are the people that should get praised. They should be the celebrity because they actually help people in society. Not these athletes that are playing a game. And sports is a great, sports is a big part of my life. But I think when you look at people like these, they should get praised. And the fact that these athletes make millions of dollars and the people that are in the health field and the science field don't make nearly as much as these athletes, it just goes to show you how modern society is built. It just seems to me like when you have the skills to pretty much actually bring value to your community, they'll pay you less. Where if you're playing a game that that brings joy and happiness to people, but really in the grand scheme of things does nothing, they paid the most because they're being paid millions of dollars to play a game that is really not that hard, so they can never go against the system. All these things that are going on today, if you look at the Roman Empire, that's what they did. If you know anything about the Roman Empire, once the people started to really figure out what was going on, they pretty much opened up the Roman Colosseum 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, and they put gladiators with lions, so you would never know what's going on. So to go back on that point, I just think that in the black community, I just think that there's so much emphasis and there's so much praise for athletes, a lot of these celebrities. That's why they feel the courage to talk about these things. And unfortunately, there's not a great structural balance where the people up top, like these people who pretty much like rule society, like the scholars and pretty much a lot of these scientists. What I'm trying to say is we don't really own, or you guys don't really own that much major industries to pretty much have the power to shut Charles Barkley up. It all goes back to that. And they've placed a monopoly on mainstream media. So Charles Barkley can say whatever he wants because he knows that nothing's ever going to happen to him. Because if he knows that his life was going to be threatened, then he wouldn't have said that. I know that may sound cruel or bad, but if you look at every other race or every other culture, just imagine if a Jewish person said something bad about a Jewish person, do you think that he's going to be on air? No, they will take him off. They're not going to allow their people to talk down on their people. It doesn't work that way. Because now what Charles Barkley doesn't realize, and as well as Shaq and Stephen A and Jason Whitlock to a degree, is that when you're on mainstream media, you're reaching out to a bigger audience. And mainstream media is one of the powerful tools to brainwash people. And you have much more of an influence because it's digitally. Whereas if you're just talking with your friends, okay, whatever. But it goes to show you that these athletes, these a lot of these celebrities are seen as goddesses. They're seen as idols. And that's the problem with celebrity worship. And I think people need to stop being programmed, and they really need to start actually looking to these people that are in these fields, like who probably like a lot of these folk people that talk about these things, a lot of these politicians, a lot of these community leaders, and they should put the money to back these people up and speak on them, on their representative. So instead of the athletes talking out, and saying foolish things about their community, there needs to be more of a push and more of backing and resources to fund people like these to actually uh, draft up plans and pretty much draw change on what they want in their community, and where their votes go and what industries that they could do that they can control, so they don't have to depend on the other racist groups of people that don't really see them as human, and you control an industry, you control power, and you can start hiring your people and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, it's all about power, and that's the unfortunate thing about this world. You can be as intelligent or and as talented as you can, but if you don't have that system to basically help you, then you're never gonna succeed. So I think it's very important for a lot of these athletes, instead of speaking out, actually use your voice and say, hey, actually fund maybe a curriculum or a type of industry that maybe people of color, black people, that they can control. Let's just say maybe in the agricultural side, they can start taking over a certain industry in agriculture, or maybe in some other, maybe like clothing or something like that, something that's tangible, or maybe they can control a water company, an industry that they could use that to a point where they could gain power. So then they don't allow a person like Charles Barkley to say whatever he wants, because hey, I have the power, and if you're going to keep talking foolish on us, and you're going to keep talking bad about our people, we'll wage war on you. We don't play. And it's about that. And we, I think there needs to be a bigger emphasis on that. And because at the end of the day, a lot of these politicians, why do you think a lot of these politicians try to run for office? So then they could have a great lifestyle, So it's really not about the politics, it's about industry and controlling pretty much a community and building it up, and then having actual leaders, these builders who are actually building communities, be out there and actually talk about these things. So then the athletes are pretty much brought down on a pedestal to the point where they just play and they don't say anything. So I got a lot off my chest. I'm pretty sure there's other things I want to say, but I'm curious to see what Anthony L says. And I want to thank you, Anthony L. For bringing up this topic. He knows messaged me that you wanted to talk about this, and I'm just as passionate about this. So I'll kick it off to you.
Well, I'm glad you guys brought up the topic. I'm glad Anthony L. Spearheaded this, because this would needed to be talked about. It needed to be conversated. And on this platform, we use moments like this to really talk about these types of conversational pieces, talk about these issues, and really delve into it and show people that we can also dib and dabber into things that have to do with real life issues, real life instances, and real life conversations. So Anthony, I appreciate that, man. So we're gonna switch gears and we're gonna talk about Doc Rivers. And I can't believe that the Los Angeles Clippers folded. I can't believe Steve Ballmer folded like a pretzel and decided to get rid of Doc Rivers. I'm feeling some type of way about that. And truth be told, a lot of people are to blame here. And I'm going to tell you who are all of these people that need to be blamed. People that have YouTube platforms need to be fucking blamed. People that are fans need to be fucking blamed. People are sitting here week in and week out blaming Doc Rivers, saying that Doc Rivers needs to be fucking fired. He needs to get his job canned, etc., etc. I'm not for a brother getting fired because people want to see the team change all of a sudden. I told you guys this, man. People are prisoner of the moment, and people have this prisoner of the moment fiasco mindset. I love this game said, just a horrible move by the Clippers. Facts. It's horrible because Doc Rivers should have not been fired. Not after one season. Are you kidding me? He didn't have a fully rostered up team. Kawhi Leonard missed games. Paul George missed a litany of games with injuries. And we're talking about him being the coach at the helm of LAR Way. Now, if you want to factor in all of his tenure as a Los Angeles Clippers coach, that's ridiculous. You could sit there and say, okay, yeah, there's been some inept situations with him. But at the same time, you have to look at the teams that he was dealt. Because when he had a complete package team, and I always go back to this, this is why people say, when people say Doc Rivers is overrated, you don't know shit about basketball. When he had a complete package team with the Boston Celtics, he got that team to the Eastern Conference Finals a number of times. He got to the NBA Finals a number of times. We had damn near a rivalry, Lakers versus Celtics, because of Doc Rivers being the coach. But that's because he had a complete package team. Rajon Rondo. We look at Ray Allen. We look at Paul Pierce. We look at Kevin Garnett. We look at Kendrick Perkins. There was a well-packaged team. So all of a sudden, they're going to get rid of Doc Rivers off of one season when the LAR way was not at full status, when LAR way was not 100%. That's ridiculous, man. And people need to be called out. because I've seen content creators do this shit. And see me, I call out whoever. I don't give a fuck who it is. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't give a fuck. When it comes to telling the truth, and Anthony L knows this about me, I will speak out against whomever. It doesn't matter. Because the truth hurts. They will set you free. And like Anthony L said, some people rock with the platform, some people don't. Some people have come and some people have gone. And there's a reason for that. It's because people don't like the truth. But I've told people from the jump, when this platform started from the beginning, and the platform is still thriving. It's thriving and it's going to continue to thrive. Don't believe all of the hearsay or whatever other people tell you guys. I know what my true numbers are. The platform is thriving nevertheless. Slowly but surely, and it's still thriving. It's like a turtle. It keeps pressing on forward. So when Anthony L was saying what he was saying, it came from a place of truth. Because people don't like the truth. They don't like the cold-hearted, unadulterated, cutthroat truth. But I use that terminology each and every single time in each and every single video. I use art of reciprocation. I say the same thing each and every single time when it's an emphatic point. But I mean everything that I say. Because I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. Let me say it again. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And a bunch of people were sitting here clamoring for Doc Rivers to get fired. Why didn't they clamor for Mike D'Antoni when he got another job outside of the Houston Rockets? I didn't hear no clamoring for him. I didn't hear no hoopla for him. How did he go untethered? How did he go under the radar? Does he have the resume that Doc Rivers has? Doc Rivers has 1 year with LAR Way, and you guys are saying he needs to be fired. Did you guys forget 2020? Did you guys forget that this was a COVID-filled year? This is the problem with people. You have a bunch of followers, and I'm realizing that 99.9% of followers, even content creators, follow words. They just go wherever the wind takes them. They're not leaders. Because to be a true leader is to understand and rise above the situation and see, okay, what everybody's talking about is not making sense right now. And I have to dig in a little deeper here. You had a COVID-filled year. You had NBA stoppage for 4+ months. You guys cannot tell me that doesn't affect the psyche and the morality of an NBA team that was peaking. Do you guys understand what it takes for a team to be peaking, going into the playoffs, and then all of a sudden has to pump the brakes for 4+ months, thinking that an NBA season wasn't going to be around and then restart? Come on, y'all. And everybody saying, oh, they the flippers. This is their first year together. When LeBron James was in his first year together with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and he had the chosen one became the frozen one, they sat there and gave LeBron James flat. They gave him credit. They said, oh, no, it was just the first year, man. You know, LeBron, you got to get used to it. He got to get chemistry with Dwayne Wade. He got to get chemistry with Bosh. So if you guys are going to say that, and that team right there was an even more thunderously dangerous team than the Los Angeles Clippers, are we going to sit here and compare the Los Angeles Clippers to that Miami Heat team? Come on, y'all. And when the Miami Heat had their epic failure, they gave LeBron James all of the excuses you could ever think of. But when this situation happened with the Clippers, they jumped and piled on Kawhi Leonard. They jumped and piled on Paul Pierce. And then Doc Rivers gets fired? Really, Steve Ballmer? You really fell for that pressure? Because initially you said he was afforded another year. Now, I'm of the mindset that if Doc Rivers were to fuck this shit up next year, yes, can his ass, fire his ass. But to fire him now, that makes absolutely no sense. That just tells me that the Los Angeles Clippers have already screwed themselves over. And I'm going to tell you why they screwed themselves over. This fire right here is going to have echoing ramifications for their future. Because if they don't turn around and get a quality head coach, one that could come in and turn this thing around on what Doc Rivers was trying to build here, Kawhi Leonard, expect him to leave after next season because he only signed on for 2 years. They're going to blow this shit up. This was not a right and a smart move. And see, when you have people that always want to jump to the gun and always want to give you their emotion, because that's the problem with a lot of people. They are emotion driven. They are emotion filled. They are not fact driven or they are not fact filled. This is what separates He Knows the Sport from the pack. I govern myself on facts. I don't govern myself off of emotions. And just because the Los Angeles Clippers didn't go to the NBA Finals, oh, it's a failure year. Blow the team up. The team is garbage. Doc Rivers needs to be fired. That's nonsense. Give the man one more year with that team. At least he's afforded that opportunity. Because if Mike D'Antoni and his rabbit ass can be afforded opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and he doesn't have no NBA Finals to showcase for it, then why the heck does Doc Rivers, an NBA champion coach, mind you, who outcoached the greatest coach of all time, Phil Jackson, that still gives him leeway. That still gives him real estate. That still gives him cachet. To sit here on your resume and to say that you outcoached Phil Jackson in NBA Finals, something has to be said for that. But for people to not acknowledge that, for people to not see that, something is fundamentally wrong with that. And see, now this is not even a Doc Rivers situation. This is an NBA fan situation that has gone wrong. So, Anthony, I'm going to let you start off, man. What's your take on Doc Rivers firing and this whole scenario with the Los Angeles Clippers?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, bro.
All right, so I'm never ever in favor of a black man losing his job, especially so swiftly when these are brand new pieces that are added to this team. Because people got to remember, like, this ain't, if this was the same like Clippers team where it was just Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, they was losing every single year, then the firing would make sense. But now you have a whole new entire roster of different players that was only given a year, and then the whole pandemic threw everything off. So I felt in that respects he should have been given the benefit of the doubt. Like most white coaches we see around the league are getting benefit of the doubt, seem like every other day. Now, to be honest with you, I did have my issues with Doc Rivers in terms of the way he coached. I think sometimes he would he was more and there's nothing wrong with being a player's coach, but I felt that there were situations and times where I felt like Doc Rivers should have like really stood up and coached like a Chuck Daly, and just say, you know what, like I'm giving these players way too much leeway to figure it out on their own. Let me get up and let me actually coach. But a lot of times I would see him sitting there with his legs crossed and with his arms folded, like, they'll get it together. Wait a long time to call a timeout. His rotations were questionable. So that was my personal gripe against Doc Rivers, is that he was too player friendly, and I think you got to find that balance between being a player's coach and a coach that's a friend and a coach that's like, okay, you know what, I need to do my job, because even if I don't get fired this year, like, there's a lot of expectations that's coming with this organization. And if I don't coach the way that I'm supposed to coach, even if it means hurting somebody's feelings, I'm going to end up losing my job. Now, it may not be this year, but it's going to happen soon enough if I don't stand up and do my job the way it's supposed to be done. With that being said, I'm not in agreement of him losing his job this swiftly, especially after Mike D'Antoni was able to walk into the manager's office, the general manager's office, and resign before his job could even be evaluated, and say, listen, I'm gone. And then the very next day he gets, an interview with the Philadelphia 76ers. It's just mind-boggling how a guy that has never won a championship, that has never even made an NBA Finals appearance, can get this many job opportunities. And we got so many qualified, seasoned, experienced black head coaches out there that are either on, when they get hired, they're on short leash, and there's minimal or zero tolerance when it comes to them losing, or they're getting overlooked for other candidates who are not as qualified for the same position. And so, it's I think it's a knee jerk reaction on behalf of Steve Ballmer and his Clippers organization. They feel like they're doing this because they feel like they have to make some type of grand and sudden move because they're salty that the Lakers are representing LA in the finals and they're the ones that got eliminated in the second round. And he's doing this, and see, this is why you should never put emotions and
Mhm.
feelings in front of sound judgment. And I think this is one of those situations to where he's reacting off of emotions and not reacting off of logic, off of, okay, you know what? Let's figure out, let's see if how we could process this. You got to keep in mind, when Kobe said, when he gave that speech, I believe it was at his jersey retirement, when he said, you know what, it wasn't about the championship years, it was about the down years. It was about those years where people was counting us out. It was about those years where people wondered, dang, if we ever going to make it back to the top, if we ever going to get back there. This is one of those moments. This is one of those down years where it's like, yeah, you might be the laughing stock in a sense because you had all these high expectations and you didn't get to the promised land. But this is one of those things you have to chalk up and use as motivation, re up, reload, get some better pieces around you and say, you know what, we're going to come back better next year. But instead of doing that, it's like now you kind of taking a sucker route and be like, okay, well, we're just going to fire the head coach because right now my feelings is hurt. I'm feeling salty, you know. Um, for those of you who's been around LA, I mean, you've seen more Clipper posters and Clipper pictures and Clipper banners than anything that has anything to do with the Lakers,
Right.
and the Clippers ain't got no championships. So it's like they've given themselves all this glory without
Mhm.
even letting the story unfold. And you should never give yourself this much glory until you fully let the story unfold and play out the way it needed to be played out. If we remember, when Luke Walton was the head coach of the Lakers, he knew he was getting fired. But what I liked about Luke Walton is that he
Exactly.
continued to coach the way he wanted to coach, whether he knew he was going to be fired or not. He continued to coach the
Mhm.
way he wanted to coach, you know, and that was a firing I know Lakers management didn't want to make, but when you have a guy like LeBron that's overshadowing everything in your organization, is just one of those things that they felt that they needed to do. But guess what? Luke Walton didn't care because number one, we're talking about all this privilege, and privilege played a role in Luke Walton getting that job in Sacramento, but he had already knew he had another job lined up for him in Sacramento. It's the same way with all of these other coaches. D'Antoni, he went up into that office resigning, knowing that he was going to find a job the next day, and look at what's happening. So it's gotten to the point where even these coaches that hasn't gotten a job done are so arrogant to the point where it's like, I don't even care about being fired. I don't care about what you're saying about me because I know that I'm going to get a 3-year deal, 5-year deal at on another team by tomorrow. You know, and it's sad how they're treating our black coaches around the NBA. It's sad what they did to Nate McMillan. I didn't agree with that termination, with that removal. I thought he was an outstanding coach. You know, and the Clippers just have a lot of things to figure out right now. They're a mess, and I don't know if they think firing Doc Rivers is going to move Kawhi Leonard one way or another, or make him or is going to sway, because I believe he's on a short term deal. Um, he's on a I'm sure, is he on a player option or is he on a team option for next year? Because he only
Yeah.
signed a
Yeah.
2-year deal with the Clippers. So they're gonna, like you said, he knows they're gonna have to find. You're gonna fire Doc Rivers. You're gonna have to fire. You're gonna have to hire somebody that's either on the same level or above with multiple championships, because if you hire anybody that has just a fraction of less of the experience that Doc Rivers has, even with his one championship, I just don't see how you'll be able to turn that around in 1 year. We have to keep in mind we were in the middle of a pandemic. The Clippers was looking good right before this whole pandemic started. And then once the pandemic started, that's when everything started to fall apart. Now, granted, at the end of the day, these are still grown men. The Clippers had a responsibility to keep themselves in shape, to keep themselves motivated, to keep themselves focused, and to keep themselves in sync as a team, regardless of the situation. You know, and at least with the Lakers, I do give them credit that they stayed ready. Now, whether or not we want to talk about the whole controversy of them practicing together when they shouldn't have been, all of that is besides the point, because at the end of the day, it's all about staying ready. It's not about getting ready. And I've heard a lot of talk about how Lou Williams wasn't in shape, how Montrezl Harrell wasn't in game shape. You know, that's on them as grown men. You know, it's just certain things that you have to do as professionals. You can't always put on the coach. You know, you have to stand in front of the mirror and say, you know what, I could have did better. I could have kept myself in shape. I could have kept myself in basketball shape. But instead of doing that, there was so much finger pointing and so much backbiting and so much jealousy and people complaining about who's getting more star treatment, who's not getting enough star treatment, you know. And it's like for them to call out the Lakers and take low-key shots at the Lakers and say that they're being divas. I sense that there was a lot of divas in that Clippers locker room when they haven't even made it to that level yet to where they can even act like divas. Y'all haven't won any championships yet as players, as a team, for you guys to be acting like divas, you know, whining and complaining and bitching about Kawhi or Paul George or whoever is getting star treatment. That shouldn't even be the concern. The only number one concern that should have been on their minds as what can we do as a team to come together to make sure we're the ones raising that gold ball at the end of the day. And they all failed, from the organization, the president, the CEO, uh, all the way on down. The coach has to take some piece of the pie of the blame for it, but not all of it. It goes from the top all the way to the bottom. Because, like I always say, to whom much is given, much is required. You guys put all of these banners all around LA talking about, street lights over spotlights and driven over given. And yeah, all of that sounds cute. But at the end of the day, guess what? You still got to get the job done. And no excuses. There's zero excuses over here. You didn't get the job done as an organization. You didn't get the job done as a coach. And you didn't get the job done as a team. So I can't put all of this on Doc Rivers, but he does share a portion of the blame. I just hate to see a black man go this quick like this. I felt he should have at least been given one more year to see what type of additions that they added to this team, what type of players, what type of role players they added. If they can get Kawhi a more suitable second star, because let's face it, Paul George is not a suitable Robin. He is not a Robin to anybody's Batman. You know, he's shown himself. He's already showed that he's just not that player that you could depend on as a second option in the playoffs. So now we have to get back to the drawing board and see what's next. But for them to give up on Doc Rivers so soon, I don't know if I agree with that. Especially when you're seeing all these other coaches around the league getting chance and second chance after chance after chance after chance after chance. So that's pretty much my take on that.
All right, Richy Rich, what's your take on it, man?
I was shocked, man, when I saw the breaking news. I thought he was eventually going to be given another opportunity, but I guess Palmer, you know, he just decided, you know, he had enough, you know, because he also had dealt with a situation where, you know, he became the owner of a team when Doc was coaching Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan, and they were up 3-1 against the Houston Rockets, and they squandered that opportunity. They allowed the Rockets to come and come down from 3-1 and knock them out. They beat them in the second round. They would have went to the Western Conference finals at that time and went up against the Warriors at that point. But Doc Rivers and the Clippers couldn't get it done. So Steve Ballmer, he probably was reliving that in his head. He was like, man, you can't believe Doc did this again. Doc and the Clippers did this again. And he just made an on the whim firing. But he needs to understand that when you look at the prospects out there, there's no one that qualifies to be the next head coach of the Clippers, unless you're trying to go into a rebuild mode, or you're just trying to have a fill out year, see what you have here, and then what you can do there. Kawhi Leonard, he didn't sign on for that. He signed on to bring the Clippers to a championship, to a finals, and see if he can win with the team, with the pieces he was trying to form. But they didn't get it done. They failed. Doc Rivers was fired. I don't believe he should have been fired, because he should have been given an opportunity to run it back because of the circumstances, like you guys mentioned earlier about the whole COVID-19, the stoppage of basketball. That was an unfortunate situation for everyone, man. This is why you can't. I don't understand why Steve Ballmer just fired him. You can't just let someone go because of those situations, man. Those situations affected that team. They were starting to gel. Chemistry was starting to come with that team. You saw it. And then the stoppage, and then when they came back, you saw something was not right with that team. You saw, it looked like all those guys, like how it was. All those guys were out of basketball for a while. They grew apart from each other in that time because they were with their families. You gotta look at it from this point. You're with your family. You're worried about a pandemic. You're trying to stay indoors, not go outside, and then now all of a sudden you got to go right back to basketball. When you were with your family for all that time, and you were worried about something that was greater than basketball, that affected everyone in the world. Now your head is focused on basketball now, which you're not really focused on because you're still focused on the COVID-19, your family. Some of these guys, their heads wasn't in the game, man. You could tell. They didn't play when they came back to this whole COVID-19. You saw these guys. Some of these guys, like I believe Montrezl Harrell, he had his late grandmother that passed away. That guy wasn't focused on that, man. You could tell that was affecting him. But there's some people that are able to do better with death in their family than others. But clearly he wasn't, because it affected his game. He was constantly talking about it. Doc had some issues with players on the team. They thought that he was giving Kawhi Leonard and Paul George too much preferential treatment, especially Paul George. Some of the role players, stuff like news leaked out about what was going on in that locker room. Some of those players on that team thought that they were better than Paul George. From a consistent standpoint, they thought that they showed up more than Paul George. Paul George didn't deserve the preferential treatment. He didn't deserve to be to be mentioned with he put on a level as Kawhi. Kawhi, they weren't really bothered with Kawhi Leonard getting preferential treatment, like the days where he would sit out or he wouldn't play back-to-backs, because Kawhi Leonard obviously proved he was a champion. He proved he was a Finals MVP. He felt a rep as one of the best players in the league, and they didn't think that Paul George was on his level, so they were kind of pissed off at Doc for giving Paul George that same treatment. So you could kind of see he may have lost the locker room And that's what Steve Ballmer was looking at. He was all this negative stuff coming out in the locker room. Those guys not getting the job done. But he still should have gave that man an opportunity, because this is a new team, man. This was a new team, and you understand, it's very rare for a new team to win a championship in their first year together. Michael Jordan and his Bulls didn't do it. Kobe Bryant and Shaq didn't do it their first year. Miami Heat didn't do it their first year when LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Those are phenomenal teams. Those explosive teams didn't do it in their first year. So I don't know what Steve Ballmer was looking at. You know what I'm saying? It's another black coach that's getting fired, and we gotta pay attention to see who's gonna be hired here, because you see, like Anthony L mentioned, Nate McMillan. I was like, there was a question mark in my head when that guy got fired as well, because I was like, man, these black coaches are getting fired. What's going on here? Because I thought that he shouldn't have been fired, because he did what Victor Oladipo was in and out of the lineup. He was trying to patch together a roster that he had. Their power forward, Sabonis, he couldn't play because he had an issue with his leg. That's one of their better players. I mean, he did what he could do. You know what I'm saying? The Heat were just a better team, and he got fired because he didn't have his whole roster out there, and they just got beat by a better team. But he did what he could do with that Pacers. I believe he did a really good job with that Pacers team. He kept them in around the 4th, 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, which is commendable for what he had to work with. Doc, he deserves a lot of blame. There was things he shouldn't have. He should have cracked out the whip on these guys. But you had to see what he had to work with. Obviously, Paul George was coming in the season with 2 repaired shoulders. He had 2 surgeries on both his shoulders coming back. I can't imagine how hard it is, how hard a injury like that is, because you got to work your way back on 2 surgically repaired shoulders, man. That takes a while to come back. So you can't really just push the guy. You don't want to get him hurt. So I kind of understand it from a sense to where, Doc Rivers is being a little lenient on Paul George because he doesn't want to rush him back into the flow of things too early, because you can get injured again, and if he gets hurt, it's a setback. Now your championship aspirations or whatever your goals were are in the rut, because now you don't have your number 2. Now it's solely put on Kawhi Leonard to carry the fullness of the burden. And Kawhi Leonard, he was doing his load management, man. And now you got Doc. A coach doesn't really have to deal with things like that, where both of your players, your 2 best players, are in and out of the lineup. This is why Steve Ballmer should have looked at that situation. He'd be like, man, you don't see a head coach usually that has to deal with 2 of their best players being in and out of the lineup. They got to be catered to, because these guys are hurt. They have injuries that we can't really we got to be careful with it. Doc Rivers didn't really have to deal with a situation like that, so Steve Ballmer should have taken that into account. So he jumped the gun with this firing, and if they don't get the right coach, man, they're gonna lose Kawhi. They possibly have to trade Paul George, man, because that guy just showed that he's just not the guy. If they could, personally, what I would do is I would try to holler at Toronto and see if Kyle Lowry is available, man, and try to get Kyle Lowry back with Kawhi Leonard, and see if I could get a newbie, that small forward on the Raptors. He plays good defense. He's a solid 3-and-D guy. Kawhi Leonard don't really need a Paul George around. He needs a solid point guard to where, he don't have to worry about being the guy on the ball. Kyle Lowry could be the guy on the ball. And all he needs is a guy like a newbie that's around that can play D, that's going to play, that's not going to take plays off. That's not gonna, disappear in the moments, that PG was disappearing in these past few years. So that's how they're gonna have to, look at this team now, because it's all about getting the right coach, which I don't think is out there right now, because they don't have the same qualifications of the Doc Rivers, man. So it's a setback right now to this team. What coach are you gonna bring in that's going to be able to build on what Doc Rivers already put in place? I don't know, man. So it's not looking good for the Clippers.
I'm gonna just say this real quick before Jacob go on, man, because I feel like I have to say this. A lot of the points that Anthony L and Richy Rich said were good, and I agree with them. The only point that I don't agree with is the Paul George one, because you guys saw it, man, right before the COVID. Let's not act like we didn't see that the Clippers were clicking on all cylinders. Paul George was right there clicking on all cylinders. Let's not forget that. We can't be prisoner of the moment and say, well, based on the postseason, and him not performing, these guys have 4 months off. See, if this wasn't an interesting fiasco, this is one of those things where asterisk applies, and an asterisk deserves to be what it is. It's an asterisk because this is a special situation that happened. And the Clippers wasn't the only team that was not playing basketball. It was everybody else except the Los Angeles Lakers that had some kind of exception or exception for them to play basketball. And I hear Anthony L when he said, you can't get ready, you got to stay ready. But Anthony L, this was COVID, man. This is a special situation. So asterisk has to apply here. This was a situation where people could be in 6 feet proximity with one another. Let's not forget what happened in this calendar year. So yes, there has to be an asterisk rule applied here, because people couldn't even be in contact with people. And Rudy Gobert got this stuff. It went crazy. It went bananas. So nobody could be playing basketball. So we have to be honest with ourselves and say the asterisk rule applies, because this was a very special situation. I have not seen no COVID situation happen that was a global pandemic that affected cases after cases after. I mean, come on. We got to call a spade here. But the Los Angeles Clippers were connecting. They were in a synergy mode, and they were getting ready to take over to the next level. They were peaking. But you guys can't remember that because it happened 4 to 5 months ago, and we know people have short attention span. We know that to be true. So it is what it is. So I just have to accept that for what it is. And Doc Rivers should be afforded another year. I don't think that Steve Ballmer's a racist. I'm not going to put the racist term on everybody. I think Steve Ballmer just jumped the gun, and Steve Ballmer got the pressure put on him, and Steve Ballmer acted accordingly based on the pressure that was put on him. And I think this is ultimately going to cost him. Now, I'm seeing people saying that the Clippers was the most disappointing team. That's infactual. That's so far removed from the facts. It's not even true. The Miami Heat in 2011 was the most disappointing team in basketball. Eric Spoelstra was able to keep a fucking job because he had a president and Pat Riley that had his back. And see, that's another thing that's missing in sports. Having somebody that's your superior that has your back. That was his first season. LeBron, that's what LeBron does. It's LeBron's MO. LeBron was trying to do that to Eric Spoelstra too. Trying to get rid of his ass. After the first year, Pat Riley was like, you don't run shit over here. Eric Spoelstra is going to stay on. That's what should have happened with Doc Rivers as it pertains to Steve Ballmer, because Doc Rivers is also the president, but Steve Ballmer is the owner. And he should have said, you know what? We're going to afford you one more year because look at all of the stuff that has happened. We have to be mindful of that. COVID happened. Basketball was going to stop. We're talking about basketball was completely stopping, and it did completely stop. They didn't even know if the season was going to come back. So you can't fault NBA players for thinking that the season was over, because this was a new situation for everybody. So yes, an asterisk rule applies. So I don't think we need to sit here and condemn or be too harsh on these guys. And Paul George, truth be told, still needs to give one more year. I'm putting a question mark if he's a solid 2 option or not. But based on what I saw prior to COVID, that's why if you guys notice in the videos, I kept saying this. The Clippers were, if the Clippers return back to that Clippers, it's over. But I don't think that they're going to return back to that Clippers. I've been saying that because it takes a lot to be two-way type of players, and it takes a lot for two-way players to play basketball at the level that they're playing it at. That means you have to get your legs up under you. That means you have to be playing basketball. That means you have to be well-conditioned. And these guys stopped playing basketball for 4+ months after they were reeling. So come on. The bottom line is this, man. When we look at Doc Rivers and we look at the Los Angeles Clippers, okay, thank you. I love this game. She said Doc wasn't the president. He knows he stepped down from that position a couple seasons ago. Okay, I'm glad you said that. That means that it was somebody else that was also in his ear, bugging it and putting the pressure on him to get rid of him. And that's not right. Because I know this ain't just come out of manufacture out of Steve Ballmer. I think initially he was of the mindset, okay, we're going to hold off. But a lot of pressure kept coming from fans, from so-called media heads, from all of these people that were putting pressure. And the pressure amounted and it caused them to run into the situation that they ran into. And then they ultimately made what we call a emotional decision and not an actual decision that benefited the product, that benefited the Los Angeles Clippers. This one right here is going to hurt and it's going to sting. Because I'm not going to sit here and I'm not holding Paul George accountable, but I still felt that Paul George deserved one more year because Paul George did miss the most games. Let's not forget that, folks. Paul George missed a lot of games in that calendar season. So he really didn't get the ability to get his legs up under him in a first season. So he also deserves another year. This is not an excuse I'm making. I'm just speaking facts. If a guy was not on the basketball floor as long as Paul George was, I believe he still deserves one more year to prove his worth. Now, if he's tripping next year, get rid of his ass. So him and Doc Rivers both needed one more year to prove themselves. Now, Doc Rivers has had some low years, and he's had a number of low years, but those low years with those Clipper teams, Lob City, should not count against him for LAR Wade because that's a completely different team. So you should look at it as, okay, year one with LAR Wade. Now we're going to go from year one LAR Wade to year two. I mean, what this is what I love this game because she keeps using that terminology and I love it. Cancel culture. This is what the cancel culture is all about. People just want to fire or get rid of situations so fast and don't give things opportunities. Great teams, championship teams that build championship habits, it doesn't happen in one season. It takes a couple of seasons for that to manifest. And just to get rid of somebody off of an impulsive decision, off of emotion, it tells me that you're not in the right frame of mind. So that's the way that I look at it. Jacob Lone Wolf, anything you got to say?
Yeah, he knows, I definitely, there are a lot of points.
You were better. Now you're giving me that double feedback. You were better on the last round.
Am I good enough?
No, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing that double feedback.
Is it right now?
It was good, but this time around, it's like it's coming in like your voice is saying it's speaking in double time.
Okay. Let me just I'm pretty sure that should work. Let me put on my headphones again. I really want to say something. Is it better now or is it still echoing?
Keep talking.
Okay. Am I clear? Am I clear?
It's coming. It's still doing that double time. It's still coming in double time.
Okay. Hold on. Let me just. I got it right here on my phone. Pretty sure that will work right now. So, wait. Just say something and I'll get back to like in maybe.
Okay. So
right?
the bottom line is this, and people need to understand it when it comes to the Clippers. You know what I'm saying? And I'll have to preference this because I just feel like one more year's afforded. Championship, Rome wasn't built in one night, man. Rome wasn't built overnight. Let's not forget that. It took Caesar a number of years to build that kingdom the way that he did. And he went through a lot of failures. A lot of damn failures. So now all of a sudden, because Kawhi Leonard and them didn't make it to the finals, man, they did better than the Los Angeles Lakers their first year, y'all. The Los Angeles Lakers didn't even make it to the playoffs. See, people don't want to keep that same energy, man. But then they sat here and gave LeBron James all excuses. Well, you know, his psychologist was on 6 months. She said, you know, he had a groin injury that was equivalent to 6 months. But they said LeBron could take anybody to the NBA Finals. He could take a hobbled Hibbett to the NBA Finals. That's what I heard. And if that's the case, then why didn't that happen? But they made an excuse. They said, wait till next year, dog. Wait till next year with the Lakers. But then when the Clippers have it, the situation happened with them, oh, they're the flippers. They're garbage. Da, 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 da. You see what I'm saying? If you're going to do that with the Clippers, you got to keep that same energy with the damn Lakers, man. You can't just say, oh, well, the Lakers are the more sexier team, so we're going to cut them slack. I don't like that shit, man. If you're going to come after the Clippers and call them flippers, you better come after the damn Miami. You better come after the damn Los Angeles Lakers, too. That's the way that I see it. Okay, Jacob Lone Wolf, let me hear you real quick.
Can you hear me well?
There you go. However you have it like that, that's perfect.
Okay, all right. Yeah, he knows, I agree with most things that you say, but, I think, alpha males, we need to disagree here. One thing I will say is that I disagree with how Doc got fired. I just think that him getting immediately fired was unnecessary. As well as, obviously the pandemic that happened. I picked the Clippers this year to win it all. Well, obviously, when the coronavirus hit, everything changed, and, I could just see from that point onward that, the Lakers were going to win. But I can't give it, like, they were up 3-1, he knows. They were up 3-1. And then they blew it, They could, and in that game 7, Kawhi didn't show up, They choked, him and Paul George, And I know that, it's up to the superstars to pretty much bring the win home. That's why, Paul George and Kawhi were there, were to close out games, And I feel like, them being up 3-1. Now, if the series was a long battle series, then I would see what you're saying. But when you're up 3-1 and you blow that lead, I think from that point forward, I think the Clippers just got too relaxed, And I think the Nuggets, they played with a sense of urgency. See, when you're down 3-1, the Nuggets proved that they don't have that much quit in them, And they showed a level of urgency to come and fight the Clippers, And a lot of things were going on, And the way the Clippers were playing, in my personal opinion, it just seems that no one was enjoying the bubble, and you can't blame them. That's why I didn't want the NBA going to the bubble, because I feel like a lot of players are quitting because they don't want to stay there. It seems that way. Them playing in the Orlando bubble, that they would rather like leave and get out the first round than to stay like a whole 2-3 months there. So in that case, I agree with most of what you're saying, where that the Clippers, they didn't have that much time to play with one another, and obviously Paul George had those 2 shoulder surgeries, and Kawhi was on load management, and the team they didn't have a level of camaraderie, and they didn't build chemistry in enough time, But I just think that I can't let them off the hook. They were up 3-1 against the Nuggets. They had multiple games to close it out in Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7, and I just think in Game 7 they quit, and they wet the bed, And I thought that the Clippers were going to really win this series, And if it wasn't an evenly matched series like 2-2 or something like that, then yeah. But there's no excuse when you're up 3-1 and you blow a lead, And I know that there's a lot of factors going on with the coronavirus and things like that, but it's just inexcusable. And with Paul George, I think Paul George in his Indiana days, he was a beast, And I think after that really bad injury to his leg in that Olympics, in that FIBA game, my bad, I don't think he was the same player as he was, that explosive athlete. And I think with Paul George, I agree that, he should have like one more year to prove himself and to show who he is, because, I've seen a lot of games in the playoffs lately, that he hasn't come up, and you can look back on last year, when he was playing with OKC, that he wasn't playing that well, and the year before where he only scored 5 points in Game 6 against the Jazz. When Westbrook went up for 46 points. And I just think that when I saw that performance from him in Game 6 of the Utah series in 2018, I'm not. You don't really see superstars or even top players score that much points. In a blowout, in a closeout game. So I think with Paul George, I've seen what he's done. And it's really, I don't really blame all of it on Paul George. I think Kawhi deserves more of the blame because he is the superstar, and he only scored 14 points. And I just think that Kawhi needs to be held accountable as well. He's a superstar extraordinaire. He's the lockdown defender. And I just think that, with him, he didn't come up, in those moments in Game 7 to close out the series, And it's not just Kawhi. I just think it's the whole team. I don't think that the team, the Clippers came together as a unit together, to defeat the Nuggets. And I just feel, even though I said in your prior live streams that the Clippers were a better run organization, I question that now. I have to eat my words, with Doc Rivers getting fired, because I didn't think he was going to get fired just now. I was surprised, and I think what it goes to show you is that in an organization, it starts from the top down. It starts from the owner, the general manager, the coach, and the players. But I think one of the most important parts of an organization is the GM. The GM is the one that pretty much creates the teams. He's the one that orchestrates which players fit better on the team. And I question whoever the Clippers general manager. I think he needs to be at fault as well. They're the ones who pretty much orchestrate how the team is pretty much how the team's pretty much made up. So there's a lot of things that happened, but I just think in that series they could have closed it out, and I don't think it was a lack of chemistry or whatnot. I just think that they just flat out choked. So that's what I got to say.
Okay, fair enough. But I'm gonna say it like this, and I was just typing that up. Let's not forget, and see, this is the thing that people don't understand. I always get back on LeBron James because I always have to remind people about LeBron's inept ways. LeBron was up 2-1 against the Miami Heat with Dirk Nowitzki. Choked that shit away in the NBA Finals. LeBron James was up 2-1 against Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors in the 2015 NBA Finals. That's twice in the NBA Finals he was up 2-1. This is the NBA Finals, y'all. Choked. You see what I'm saying? Like, LeBron doesn't, there's so much evidence with LeBron, but then he gets no blame here. And I saw how they were shining Kawhi Leonard, but they forgot that Kawhi Leonard already won 2 finals and 2 finals MVP. Yeah, he choked in that series. Yeah, they didn't do what they were supposed to, but I'd rather lose in the second round. I don't know about y'all, but I'd rather lose in the second round than for me to lose in some damn NBA Finals. I don't know about y'all, because the weight of the NBA Finals that takes hits on your legacy. Then losing some damn second round, losing in the this is what people don't understand. People don't remember second, third, first round of playoffs, but they remember the finals. If you ask people about finals, they'll have more of a memory of that than they'll have in the first, second, or third. Unless they're basketball aficionados like us, they ain't gonna remember all that shit. They're gonna remember what happened in the damn finals. And LeBron James was 2-1 in both of those finals. And he choked up. Last time I checked, Kawhi Leonard, if LeBron James can get 6 asterisks, 6 excuses, then Kawhi Leonard can get 1. That's the way that I look at it. And I understand what Jacob Lone Wolf is saying. I understand what Anthony L is saying. I understand what Richy Rich is saying. There's no excuses. They holding these guys accountable. Trust me, I get the argument and I agree with it 1,000%. But what I'm saying is, if LeBron James can get 6 excuses and 6 instances where he's failed, and that's not even talking about his epic failure in the playoffs, because there was no reason that Cleveland Cavaliers team shouldn't have beat that Orlando Magic team. Nobody could tell me otherwise. There was no reason that Orlando Magic team should have beat that Cleveland Cavaliers team. And I could argue that down tooth and nail with the best of them. LeBron has failed so many times, and there's always a love excuse waiting to find him. But Kawhi fell once. Come on, y'all. Once. And now we blowing the shit up. You can't count San Antonio because he wasn't the leader. That was like Tim Duncan in them. That was Tony Parker in them. So I don't count that. I'm talking about him as the leader of the cog, the main cog of the team. One time, and all of a sudden, it's over. You see what I'm saying? The rules don't apply. The same rules don't apply with LeBron James that it applies with everybody else. Everybody else gets held to a different standard. Everybody else actually gets held to the right standard, but LeBron doesn't. Now they're celebrating LeBron James going to the 10th NBA Finals, but nobody's saying that LeBron James only won 3 times in these 10 tries. Nobody's saying that. But they're saying they're talking about, oh, this is a monumental moment. This is what I'm talking about when I say La Participation Award era. 2-1 against the Golden State Warriors in 2015. 2-1 against the Dallas Mavericks in 2011. I mean, come on, y'all. Y'all gotta call a spade here, man. If we gonna sit here and get on Kawhi Leonard in some damn second round, then we gotta get on LeBron James in the freaking NBA Finals. And like Lewis said, it was a fucking sweep. Because after they went up 2-1, both those teams ram-a-lang LeBron James' ass. So that's what I'm saying. The Los Angeles Clippers, they nutted up. They didn't do what they were supposed to. And I agree with the panel on what they're saying. But let's not act like it's the end of the world. This is the first time we've seen Kawhi Leonard as a main cog in a precarious situation. How many times have we seen LeBron James in that same precarious situation and he's failed over and over and over again, and somehow he's able to rise above the occasion? All I'm saying is we're going to get on the Clippers. We damn sure better get on some damn Lakers, and we damn sure better hold LeBron James' feet to the damn fire of every time that motherfucker failed. We better do that. We better damn do that. And that's all I got to say. Richy Rich, I'm going to go ahead and let you say what you got to say. Just make it real quick because I got to close out.
All right. Yeah, man. I was glad that you brought up that point, man, because these people are now starting to talk about Kawhi, man, and they're very negatively. Like, these people are now saying, don't you ever bring up Kawhi Leonard in the same breath as LeBron James. I'm like, listen, man, this is the first time that Kawhi has failed, had a major fail in his career, man. LeBron James has major fails in his. I could count on my finger. I could count on my hand. Look, I could count probably on 2 hands the major fails that LeBron has had on his career. And you guys have given this man leeway, but you're not gonna give Kawhi Leonard leeway now. You know, it just goes to show you, man. You know, Kevin Durant, when he was up 3-1 on the Warriors, they took a dump on him. You know what I'm saying? They taking a dump on Kawhi now. When LeBron James forgot how to play basketball against the 2011 Mavericks, the media was going in on him, but right after the year, right after when they beat the OKC in 2012 in that lockout year, it's like he was forgiven, man. When he gets gentleman sweep by the San Antonio Spurs in what was it? In the what was it? 04? No, 2014. It was the highest margin of a blowout any team has ever faced in a final setting. The Spurs were blowing them out by the highest margin, man. And this dude got gentleman sweep. It's like what they do. They didn't blame LeBron. They blamed his teammates. They said D Wade didn't show up. Chris Bosh didn't show up. The role players didn't show up. This man 2-1. You mentioned it against the Warriors when he was up 2-1. going against the Golden State Warriors in 2015, going back to Cleveland. This man is in his home. He chokes in game 4. He can't get it done. And then the Warriors gain momentum and they go on to win that series. Stephen Curry finds his stroke again, and he starts playing up to the level that we know that he can play at, and they win that series. Kevin Durant, your boy, outshows LeBron James in 2 back-to-back finals. What'd they say? Kyrie Irving didn't show up in the first one because Kyrie Irving wasn't on the team in the last finals that Cleveland was in. But they were saying that Kyrie didn't show up. Kevin Love didn't show up. And when you go look at those Fultz numbers, these guys were averaging just about the same point. Kyrie Irving's numbers was mirrored Stephen Curry's numbers. Kevin Love's numbers mirrored Klay Thompson's numbers. I'm like, okay, this don't add up. J.R. Smith's numbers was mirroring Draymond Green's numbers in points per game. Something wasn't adding up, man. They blame his teammates, but they don't go at him. You remember what I was talking about last week, where if when the role players, the number 2 and the role players, when they look at their leader, they pay attention to their leader. They look at the morale of their leader, the demeanor of their leader. They sense their demeanor. If they sense a demeanor from the leader that they can't win this, these guys are not gonna give effort. They sensed LeBron. He knew going up against Kevin Durant that he was not gonna win that matchup. There was already a sense of defeat there, and you saw it. That's the game that they all brought. They all approached it like they were already defeated. They saw that in LeBron. That's what LeBron showed. LeBron didn't get blamed for it. His teammates got blamed for that. They let this guy get off the hook so many times, man. This is what I'm saying. They are hurting their product because I'm gonna close it off by saying the NBA is hurting their product because they're allowing they're pretty much putting LeBron. They're always putting LeBron to the forefront, but these other players, they're keeping them in the back.
All right. Appreciate everyone that showed up and showed out. We're going to continue on with the Miami Heat on Wednesday. It's going to be all Miami Heat. We're going to talk about that with the Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony L., thank you for your contributions, brother. Jacob Lone Wolf, appreciate your contributions. Richy Rich, we're going to continue back on Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? Regular broadcasting time, and we're going to talk about the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers. That's probably going to be a live stream where we dedicate it all to that. So we appreciate it. Anthony L., thank you for the super chat. He said, thank you for your boldness and willingness to go outside of the box. Damn right, man. All the time, man. Appreciate you for that super chat, man. Y'all appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great Monday. You know what I'm saying? Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Y'all be safe out here in these basketball streets. And I'm going to see you guys back on Wednesday. I'm going to make sure that I get Lewis on to the panel as well, too. And we're going to chop it up because we got to talk this Heat and we're going to talk this Lakers. And we're going to get on LeBron's ass again, because we don't like that double standard. We're going to actually continue off of that soundbite of what you left off on, Richy Rich, because we can't let that one continue to be, you know what I'm saying, off, and we can't let that one not go without being noticed. Anthony L., appreciate the super chat. Appreciate you on the panel. Appreciate you coming in with that bold topic, man. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate everyone that showed up and showed out. Appreciate y'all, man. This was a great stream. It went outside of the box. We talked about everything we needed to talk to, and we're going to continue to leave off of that note right there. So I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great Monday, and y'all be easy. Peace.